Hey, what's up? Bobby, as usual, Coach Megan, Coach Chrissy, back at you here with another video. This is actually probably my favorite video. And the reason this is my favorite video, well, we haven't made it yet, but the reason this is my favorite video is because this topic is one that I used to struggle with a lot. Amongst various sexual dysfunctions and other issues related to dating. This was something that really I kind of struggled with. So now that we're making a video on it, I'm pretty pumped. And this is how to go from the girl that you're on a date with sitting 2 feet away from you to you inside of her. And that sounds very, it sounds
blunt.
Very blunt, but that's basically the whole point. Because you're thinking, if you're on a date, you're thinking, and she's 2 feet away, you're thinking, how do I get rid of this 2 feet? And just, we want to get to the action here. Especially if it's blow her mind the first time, where you want to get to the action right away, rock her world, and get her into a relationship. So, what we have is something called the risk-free sex ladder. This was developed, by the coaches, by myself, but also with a dating guy that we do a lot of work with, a guy named Vin DeCarlo. He's got some really, really good stuff, and we have a lot of his information worked into here as well. But this is a really good way for a guy that's really worried, like, how do I close the gap between her over there and me over here on the date to minus the 2 feet, minus the clothes, and basically sex. So we're going to start off with number one. Like, there's a lot of steps, but the best thing is every one of these steps, they work, they're in order. And if you miss it a little bit, not the end of the world, but it works really well if you do follow the order. And then you're going to see a demonstration, which is going to be super hot, where Megan and Chris are going to go through and demonstrate step 1 through the end. I think it's 17 or 16. You don't have to remember them all, but how to get, from fully clothed to naked having sex. And that's going to be a real good way to get your girl that you're on a date with into sex. And it's also, the other thing about it that's really good is it's very natural. Like, it's not like you're really trying to force anything. And that's how this thing was developed, so that it's like, you go from just, casually hanging out, chilling, to getting sexual, getting a little more sexual. The next thing you know, you're getting very sexual. So, step 1. So, step 1 of the risk-free sex ladder, and it's called risk-free because you're not going to get denied, is eye contact. And if you're out with a girl and you're on a date and you do not make eye contact, it shows that you probably are not going to be comfortable in bed. And you guys agree with this? This is a very strong point.
Definitely. Eye contact is seriously the most important thing about speaking to someone and really communicating whatever you want to communicate to them. And it doesn't require a ton of talking and all of that crazy stuff. You can just look at her really and just make sure she feels wanted.
And women understand these cues very strongly. So eye contact, like posture, they're both very good ones, but eye contact is number 1 here. So worse than eye contact is eye contact with like that's even worse. Like, you're just sitting there, like, that's the wrong kind of eye contact. But you want eye contact, just you look in her eyes while you're talking. That's the most important thing. Like, while you're not talking, not as important, but you want to make sure you're looking into her eyes when you're talking. Like, you just, hold the eye contact.
Almost, and you're just interested in her, and she can feel it like that. She doesn't even remember what she's saying because she's so interested in you and her and the connection, the windows to the soul, so to speak.
Yeah, and that's what people say, was like the eyes are the window to the soul, or something like that. So you want to look like right into her eyes, almost like you're trying to look behind her. That's like the physical technique. It's not very complicated. You just look into her eyes like you're looking behind her, and then you're good to go. As far as eye contact, when does it become creepy? When is it too much? She'll look away, and when she looks away, then you look away, and then you kind of look back. But one of the most unattractive things for women is if it's a conversation and she's looking in your eyes and you're looking to the side, because it shows that you're not that comfortable. Because for women, if were to do that, they automatically know that if he were to do this during sex, there isn't going to be any emotion. And as we know, emotion for women, very important. So if you're setting up before the bedroom that you're not going to be able to look her in the eye in the bedroom, total step in the wrong direction.
In bed, we want somebody who's confident, somebody who's not going to be afraid to, be mature and make a real connection. So looking away shows us that.
So you want to look at her, in her eyes, so you show that you are interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the main thing. That's number 1, eye contact. Very simple. Any guy can make eye contact. If you're worried about it and you're kind of like a really shy dude, what you can do is just practice by looking at something for 30 seconds. Whether it's, I'm just looking off screen here. If you just look over here for 30 seconds, just practice. And you just look at something for 30 seconds, pull out your watch, pretty dorky, but whatever. Pull out your watch, 30 seconds, boom. you know? And if it changes when you're with a woman and you get kind of scared to look straight in her eyes, you got to get past that. You got to just, you know, whether it's in the beginning, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, if you're not looking at her eyes while you're talking to her, she's going to notice, and it's very, very unattractive. So.
And did eye contact, like, just not looking at her, it doesn't just show that you're not confident, it also shows that you're not interested. And to me, that's almost even worse, that you're just there and you're not really there.
Yeah, big deal. So step number 1 is eye contact. Let's move on into the next technique. Technique number 2. Technique number 2 is pretty good, and this is one that for a lot of guys that it really bridges the gap between physical space. You know, it really is a way to close the gap between her there and you here. And that is basically like accidental touch. So the accidental touch, which in this case isn't going to be accidental, but it's going to appear accidental, is going to really make the difference between her feeling comfortable with your touch and her not, because it's very easy to go into actually touching her. Like if you want to, you know, let's say, and we're going to go through it step by step, but let's say you want to have your hand on her lower back or something like that, or you want to have your hand on her leg. That's all easier after she's felt your touch, like even if it's accidental. So if you touch her accidentally first, she's felt your touch, like it doesn't feel weird, you've kind of broken that gap of, you know, the physical space, you know, their accidental touch right there, you know? So then it kind of like breaks the ice, and then you can move into, you know, the more explicit physical touch. So let's talk about the accidental touch first. And here are some of the ways actually that you can go and you can touch her accidentally. Okay, so now the coaches are going to give you some examples of the different ways that you could accidentally touch her. So do you guys want to touch her?
Sure. I think one of the most important ways to accidentally touch a girl is just the beginning handshake. It shows so much about your personality. If you're assertive, if you're a strong, confident guy, that's the vibe you want to give off. I can tell you I hear girls talking all the time about a guy that doesn't shake, or even a girl that doesn't shake strongly, and it kind of throws them off, like a limp, weak shake. Like you want to make sure that when you grab that hand, you are assertive.
And not
and
squeeze her hand, but just a nice
and you
firm
shake
grip.
You shake a girl's hand differently than you shake a man's hand, of course, because you don't want to hurt her and you don't want to come off too overbearing, but definitely just strong, confident. So that's definitely one great.
And again,
so let's go
look
through
her in the eyes with the handshake.
Yeah, and it's a good point. So let's go through like 3 or 4 others. There's a bunch more. So let's go through 3 or 4 others of the accidental touching.
Also, you know, if you want to push out her chair, you know, for her to sit down, you know, maybe you could touch her shoulder a little bit while you're pushing in her chair for her.
Just arm brushing, so when you're speaking with her, you know, accidentally kind of touch her. If you're sitting next to her in a booth at dinner, I mean, that's like the easiest way, right?
That's one of the best ways.
Against.
Just accidental contact. You're next to her at dinner, like at the booth. Your legs are just touching, your arms touching. You just got to get her used to your touch at all.
And when you speak, when you hit a point that you feel is important and you want her to know, like, you know, next week, let's go to whatever, let's go to dinner, let's go do this activity. Make sure that when you do it, you touch her. It's almost like an affirmation?
Reaffirmation?
Yes.
Or an affirmation?
Yes, I think it's a very good thing to do.
Yeah, it's a very good point, especially at a high note. Like if it's a high note and you want to really emphasize a point, you know, you're like, and oh my God, it was amazing. Okay, you know, that's when it's going to be, you know, very appropriate. You know.
Or when you're standing next to her, just like you've already said, when you do these accidental touches, the touching of the lower back will just come more naturally, and she'll already feel comfortable, and it will be something that actually is just. Totally
as you go through the door, you know, you have your arm on her lower back, and you don't have to make it seem like you're trying to touch her. It's actually the opposite. You want to make it seem like you're not trying to touch her, and you just do, because when you speak like that or you do that kind of physical action like you walk through there, that's what you would do.
And when you're walking, you can kind of guide her with your hand, like over the shoulder or just like on the back, because girls like that. It makes them feel like you're their protector.
So that's the main thing here is just to get her used to the touch, whatever it's going to be. And, you know, if you're a guy that doesn't naturally touch women, which most guys, they don't naturally think, you know, hey, I'm going to touch this girl. Like, then you just want to touch her and make it seem accidental. This is the first type of accidental contact. So let's move into the third step here in our risk-free sex ladder. The next step here rather is obvious touching. So you went to get her used to the touching, like, you know, maybe your legs are touching, you went for a high five, or you shook her hand, whatever it may have been. You know, you put your hand on the small of her lower back while she was walking through a door, whatever. You know, the next step is going to be, you know, obviously touching her. And we're not talking about like touching where it's like you're grabbing her breast and you're massaging her or you're kissing her. We're talking about like just the next step that's going to make her receptive to that. So the next step might be as you're walking, holding hands. That's, you know,
So romantic.
yeah, and women love that. You know, that's like one of the easiest ways. And if you do want to hold her hand, like one of the easiest ways to do it is when you're, you know, maybe you're sitting at dinner and you want to hold her hand, or you're leaving the restaurant, you just have your hand on her leg, and then, you know, she grabs your hand. Then you just, you know, you just don't let go. You know, when you're standing up, like you just, you know, you just keep your hand.
And it shows her that you're comfortable with showing everybody else that you like her.
It's a really good point. Like if you're open to holding her hand in public,
Public display of affection.
yeah, it sets up like in her head that, hey, you know, this guy really likes me. He's not just thinking about, oh, we just get back to, you know, the house, have sex, and then he kicks me out and doesn't tell anyone about it. You know, that's like her worst fear. So if you're
It is her
just,
worst fear.
you know, if you still just make it seem like you're comfortable, you know, whether it's, or if like you guys are like walking and you're like arm in arm, you know, like you go like this, you know, sorry, wrong way. Not smooth. Don't do it like that, not smooth. So, but if you're like walking down the street arm in arm, if you live in a place, you know, where we are, it's warm, but if it's, you know, most people, they have a winter, you know, you're walking and it's very cold, arm in arm, then yeah, exactly. Then that's how the next step of, you know, of actually touching her. So basically you're letting her know that, and you're going to see this all in the demonstration with the two girls, but we're just throwing in some demos now in the seminar section, but you're letting her know that you're okay with her knowing that you're trying to touch her. You know, it's like you're the man, you're in charge.
I like you. And her, you doing these accidental touches before the actual touching will open her up to assertively touching you. So you accidentally brushing and doing all these things are going to make her feel more comfortable to actually go forward and grab you and hang on to you and show affection towards you.
Yep, and a really good thing to do during this stage to know if she's open to advancing. And in this whole thing, this risk-free sex letter, you know, it kind of takes away the chance of getting denied. But one of the things that you can do is you can just grab her hand, you know, maybe you're out, and you just kind of put it on your leg. And you don't want to put it up high, like towards like anything like super sexual, but you just put her hand rather, on your leg. And if she leaves it there, then she's fine for you to keep going forward. You're not going to get rejected. You're going to be going in the right direction. If she immediately takes her hand away, then you got to back up and go to one step before. You know, you got to rewind, go to one step before and try again. Something didn't go right. So that's one of the easiest ways to know if you're still kind of worried about it, like, oh, how do I touch her? Not sure. Boom, put her hand right on your leg. Make sure she keeps it there. And, you know, if she does, even if it's for like, you know, it doesn't have to keep it there for 30 minutes. If she just doesn't remove her hand, you're good. You know, you're moving in the right direction. So other things you could do would be, giving her a hug, like, you know, even just like out of nowhere. Like, it sounds a little weird, but if you're just sitting there at a restaurant next to her, or you guys are out and you just go to give her a hug, that's cool. You know, it makes her know that you're okay with, you know, public display.
A couple of other things that you could do is if you're sitting on the opposite side at a restaurant, you could maybe move over right next to her, you know, like a little bit more snug. You could also, if you're somewhere a little chilly, offer your coat and put it around her, give her a little one of these.
And if you are doing that, it's a really good point. Don't do it half-assed. Like, don't go for like the kind of like, you do it again, but don't really like go for like you're scared like to rub her shoulders. Like, you don't want to do that. That looks like, that's when you get in this like no man's zone, because you look kind of like not confident. Like, you put the coat around her and you're kind of like, yeah, and you're not exactly sure. It was like, did he touch me? Did he not touch me? That's when you're gonna be like, she's gonna be like, what does he think? Like, what a pussy. Like, it just kind of looks like soft. So you want to make sure if you are going for it in this stage, which you are, you do go for it. So that's one of the main things. You know, this is not accidental. This is, you know, is on purpose. So, you know, during this stage, you totally want to avoid, you know, kissing. You want to avoid touching her neck. This is like the precursors to all the stuff so that you don't get denied when you do go in that direction. So anything else you guys want to hit in this stage, you know, before we move on?
I think that's good.
Cool. All right, let's move on to the next stage in the risk-free sex ladder. The next stage is incidental contact or accidental contact, but it's moving to a different region. And this isn't like accidental contact, like, oops, it just slipped in, but we're talking about like accidental contact, like where you're touching her torso or her legs, which are obviously more sensitive for a woman. And that's going to be an area that she's a little bit more protective about, where it's going to be a little bit more of an advancement on your part. So that's why you're not just going like totally straight in this stage. You're kind of going, you know, a little bit disguising it. And at first, you know, going for it, little
It
accidentally.
excites her when you touch her torso or her legs, kind of like inside, she's like, oh my gosh, is he gonna go for more? Does he really like me? Oh, he's thinking about me in these like kind of
In a sexual way,
ways.
yeah.
Like, I love it.
Because for the most part is, for women, the only guys that are touching them on their torso or on their legs are guys that they're either going to sleep with or are sleeping with. So it kind of sets you apart from the dude that is a friend, or the dude that I'm never going to hook up with, or the dude that has, it just no game whatsoever. So that's like the big, the big difference. And we talked about that in the previous step. We kind of said, you could put her hand on your leg, whatever. Now we're talking about a little bit, like, a little bit
More personal.
further. Yeah, a little bit more personal. Those stages are kind of, kind of similar, but then you're more of upper body contact. It's more of like arms, back, shoulder, stuff like that, like wrist, hand, stuff like that. So now it's more focused on legs and torso. But if you did it in the previous step, before the obvious touching, then you're still going to be okay as long as she was okay with it and you move to the next step and there were no issues. But now the focus really is more on the torso and the legs. And ways to do that would be like sitting really close to her, and we kind of hit that a little bit in the last stage, but the easiest way is like if you're sitting next to her at a restaurant, which you definitely want to be doing, you could move right in and sit next to her. Actually, what you want to do is rather than you moving to sit next to her, you want to tell her to sit next to her. Her to sit next to you. Speaking error there. So you want her, you'd be like, hey, why don't you sit next to me? This isn't an interview, and that'll work really well. She's gonna be like, oh, yeah, it's not an interview, and then so she'll move over and then just kind of like
easy access too. I mean, you can really just like
yeah, it's
brush
like you're
up
just sitting next to her and you
against
just have her move over and then there you are. That's one of the ways that the hand on the leg still during this stage, but also like if your hand is on her and your hand is like moving, and you move your hand up a little higher, like towards her torso, like that's going to be like another time for it, because it's going to be, she's going to be more open to it because everything you've done, you've touched her in other areas. You weren't overly sexual
And she
about it.
responded well
And
already.
you don't go straight towards the goodies, it's just kind of like around them, almost like you're giving a light massage.
On the safe areas,
On
it's
the
like
safe
the safe zone. It's like when guys get denied advancing, it's because just right away they're like, and they just go right in,
Girls are like, what are you
what's
doing?
what's going on?
You're taken back, and you feel like, oh well, why did he think it was okay to do that? I never gave him the go ahead.
But if you follow the right order, then all of a sudden you're not going to have any issues because it's going to seem very natural. So let's go through and give some examples of what to do. It would be sitting next to her, touching her leg, leg to leg contact, whether
Arm brushing.
Yeah, arm brushing. Like if you go to the guiding, like if you go to the movies and you're just kind of watching the movie and you just like pull her on top of you and you guys are just chilling like that, there's a lot more contact. There's like torso to torso.
And maybe we'll excite her and make her want to give you a kiss.
Yeah,
It's a
and
good position.
and you don't have to push the agenda. You'll see the exact stage where to go. But if you anything where there's like a lot more body to body contact, not just like, the stage before.
Yeah.
So that is the accidental touching, but a little bit more serious. Now you're aiming for the torso and for the legs. So let's move on. So now we're going into the more obvious touching, but type 2. And in this stage, it's usually sitting down, but doesn't have to be. It's going to be a little bit more explicit that you're touching her. More people are going to notice. There's just going to be a lot more of a connection. And it's going to be more known that, hey, this is my girl. And it's going to be known not only to other people, but to her. And that's kind of the escalation, and you're moving in that, that stage very, very rapidly, but very smoothly, with no chance of getting denied because each one is just a little increment building on the one before it. So now what we're moving into is like hugging her from the front. And basically the key here is there doesn't really have to be a major reason other than it was a high point of the conversation. So she's not going to be like, my dog died, and you're going to hug her and go for like a more romantic moment, but it's going to be like at any time when it seems like the two of you are together and you're looking to take it a little bit further. So like if she was like, what's a good example? So
if you're maybe at a fair and somebody scored a point, give her a hug.
You
Yeah,
want
good
the
example.
back and forth a little
to
bit.
make her feel closer to
Good
you.
example. This is very romantic stage, very romantic. You're not thinking sex as much as you're thinking like connection, trust, intimacy. Like it's not about the sex. That's coming later because once everything's set up where she's comfortable, the sex is going to follow and you'll see that.
And it's always good to have a strong hug and to make her feel like you're kind of, not just pushing up against her, but definitely like getting closer to her and just enthusiasm and closeness.
Really wrap your arms around her like a bear hug.
so she feels secure is basically the whole point. So another thing that when you go for the frontal, we call it the frontal hug, very fancy technical name here. When you go for it is you want to be the one that actually pulls away. So you don't want it to wait for her so that she's like, she decides it's over. You want to be the one that pulls away. And you can last as long as you want. She's not going to go anywhere. Like if you want to keep hugging her, go for it. But then when it's over, you're the one that decides. You just kind of pull away a little bit. So that's
it's
kind of
gonna keep her wanting more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she's deciding, and she's already has in her head, he's the gas, I'm the brakes. You don't want that. You want her thinking, you're the gas, and she's on board with that, so she's okay with it. Another way is, as you guys are walking through the bar, you can just, have one hand like on her lower back and just keep it there. Like you don't need to move your hand. Like leave your hand on her lower back the entire time you're walking through the bar. Whether you're walking down the street, that's fine. Very different than just you come in, you touch her, and you leave your hand there for a second, you pull it off. This time you want your hand on her lower back, and you just keep it there the entire time.
Yeah.
And
she's
that's
more likely to, do it back too. That definitely shows that.
And it shows that you're the man, like you're in control and you're guiding her. You're not shoving her, but you definitely are like kind of holding her like this is where we're gonna go and I am, the man.
most likely, she's going to start reciprocating onto you. So it's not like you're going to have to follow every single one of these steps. You can when it's not going well. But most likely what's going to happen is when you follow the first few, she's going to feel very comfortable, very connected very early on. And then she's going to start making it very known that your advances are okay. But you definitely can still keep following it, but it's,
Natural
it's
progression.
very natural progression. The third thing in this step, another thing that you could do, and you don't have to do all three, you can do one of them, two of them, three of them, whatever. But another one would be that when you're sitting there, you have her leg over your leg. So, if you,
Little like when you're in a
it's a tough job, but someone has
Either
to
way.
do it, So it's like if her leg is like over you, then it's a lot more intimate. It's just like, she's a little bit more open, like it's just a little bit more sexual.
and you'll
It's
feel
just
closer.
Yeah, you feel a lot closer, very romantic. So it's not like, you got to be like massaging her breasts while you're doing this or anything. Like you actually want the opposite. You want her leg over you, feeling comfortable. It's almost a very non-sexual, totally romantic position where you're just kind of making it known that her touch is okay, that your touch is all right, and you're just getting very
It's
comfortable with
almost
each
like
other.
making out, but with your leg.
Yeah, a very good analogy. Very good analogy. So that is one of the ways that you can move on. Then you had the other two as well. And now we're going to move into more, more explicit stuff as we go up the risk-free sex ladder. The next stage is incidental touching of her hair, face, or neck. And this sounds surprising because you've already touched her arms, you've already touched her legs, you've touched her stomach, and it's kind of like, wait a second. Hair, face, and neck. But the thing is that most girls are actually super protective of these areas, and a lot of times much more so than they are of their arms, of their legs, of like their torso, because that's kind of like a lot more intimate. It's like sets up this thought in their head, is he going to kiss me? That's like what comes up next, and they start thinking, they're like, what's going on here? And then, that it's kind of unavoidable. There's a physical connection that's coming up. So you want to make sure that you first touch her neck, face, and hair, very accidentally. So let's look at some of the ways you could do this. And if you don't do this, even a lot of guys that get a lot of women, they don't do this accidentally. So then when they do go in to kiss the girl, even if every other stage was okay, like, they've got their hand on her leg, they got their hand on her lower back, like they've done everything else right. But then they go to kiss her and she's like, no, and she's just not ready. And then that's when you start running into this, where you're getting denied because she was ready for your hand. She was okay with that. She was ready for all sorts of other stuff, but she wasn't ready for the kiss. And it creates this kind of awkward moment. So let's talk about some of the ways that you could casually or basically incidentally by accident touch her face, neck, or...
One thing that I think would be kind of smooth, a lot of girls on the first date like to wear jewelry. And a lot of the time, the back of the hooks on necklaces can swing around a little bit and such, and maybe, lightly caress her neck and adjust her necklace for her, tell her that, oh, your necklace is turning around a little bit. Here, let me fix that for you.
It's not lying, it's flirting. Anything else? There's a lot more, but we're gonna go break down some more, but let's see what comes. That's a really good way. That's it's totally accidental. Like you weren't touching her, you were just fixing a necklace. Very innocent.
Yeah, or it really isn't aggressive if you just kind of like play with her hair or just brush up against her neck or her face. Like it's not gonna be creepy because you don't do it in a, aggressive fashion. Yeah,
you want to make it seem like if you do go to, maybe it's like there's a hair that's out of place and you go and you get the hair out of the way, or if there's like something on her
I
face.
love it
and,
when guys tuck it behind my ears. That it's part of, when you touch your own face, your own hair, it doesn't feel good. But when somebody else does it, and it's just that nice light touch.
It feels good.
Gives you goosebumps. Girls like that kind of stuff.
Different girls are, they're going to be different, but I definitely think that a safe spot would be the face or the neck. The hair, some people, who knows? Girls can be a little bit self-conscious about that, so that would be the last thing I would touch.
So face and neck first, and then then go into
For
the
me,
hair.
at least.
For you, okay. So for other girls, you go right behind the ear. Let's go into some others. One of the best ways in this stage to escalate risk-free is also to talk very close to her. Like if you're somewhere that's really loud, and maybe you want to go to a place that's really loud. So if you're somewhere that's really loud, like you have your arm around her and you just start talking to her, and you're very close when you're talking to her, and she keeps thinking like, is he going to kiss me? Is he not going to kiss me? And you're like very close, you're right in her ear. She's like right in your ear, and she keeps thinking, she's like, oh, is he going to make the move? Is he not going to make the move? Is he going to kiss my neck? Like she keeps thinking like,
But she's prepared for it.
She's prepared. So when you do go to kiss her later on, there's no worries because you just were in that position and didn't. So now she's comfortable. You don't look like you're sex starved or crazy or, or like some kind of weirdo. You're just kind of, talking loudly in her ear. And that's going to be, like very, very sexual for her because it creates a lot of tension, but also it's not going to be creepy at all. And she's going to get very, very comfortable with you being very close to her. So if you're like, like thinking about kissing her, don't do it yet because she's not ready and you might get denied. And once you get denied, the chance of getting denied again goes way up. It's much easier to not get denied any stage of the way and then progress smoothly to blowing her mind the first time. So you really want to make sure you're in this. That's probably the easiest in my opinion. I'm a pretty shitty actor, so if I go to like brush her hair back or something like that, it's gonna I don't know, it just seems kind of awkward. Or if she's like, for me, a lot of guys, it's not awkward at all. For tons of guys, they can do that much smoother. But if one of the other ways is, you like, there's like a piece of dirt or something on her neck, and you go, oh, you had some right there. She's not like, if I said it, I can't say it very convincingly. I'm just like a terrible fucking actor. Otherwise I'd be, maybe an actor like, doing acting instead of hosting some sex DVDs.
Whispering in the ear is just a way to get close to her neck and to her face and all those sensitive regions, and then also it creates a closeness because it's like you're sharing a secret with her, and she's like, oh my gosh, what does he want to say? What is he going to do next? He's so close, he's in my personal space.
Cool. So that's this stage. It's all about accidental contact with her face, with her neck, with her hair. You can basically, if you're looking for the easiest way, I personally think it's totally, getting really close to her if you're in a place that's loud, or, you want to be quiet, like you want to tell a secret, like maybe you're talking about some other people like in the restaurant or wherever you are and you want to kind of like make fun of them or something, then you get really close and say that. That personally is my favorite way, because as far as like being like, oh, there was a piece of dust on your nose, I had to get it off. She would immediately know. It's not only not sexy, but if she thinks like, oh, he's just trying to touch me, like then you're kind of going a step in the wrong direction.
And like you said earlier, when you make out with a girl, it's kind of like a green light that eventually there will be sex. And the same with, at least for me, letting a guy into my personal space, if it's just like this area around here and I'm not pulling away and I continuously let him kind of just like linger and whisper and touch and stuff, like it's like, go ahead, you can kiss me.
Yep, and you'll see how coming up very soon, but that would be the easiest, to get into her personal space and start talking. So let's move on to the next stage while we're on a roll here. So the next stage is touching her head, face, and neck, obviously, where she knows that you're touching it, and it's no, rejection because you just touched it accidentally, and she's still thinking maybe it's accidentally, maybe it's not, or she's okay with your touch because you were already there and you've kind of advanced one step forward, one step behind. So think of it as like half step, full step, half step, full step. So in this stage, you want to really make it known that you are going to kiss her, but not yet. So you're kind of getting her comfortable with the fact that you are going to kiss her. So in this stage, you want to really accentuate the face-to-face contact, or like face to her neck. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. Like one way is if you're just, you guys are just there and you just pull her head onto your shoulder, and then you guys are kind of like sitting there, and it becomes pretty obvious that you are going to kiss her, but it's like you're not yet. You're just kind of hanging out. No issues. You're not really pushing the agenda. She's not worried. She's not like like worried about it.
It feels comfortable. And
Yeah,
she'll
it feels very
probably
comfortable.
Move her leg onto yours. And
She's gonna be looking to be like more on you than less. So she's gonna kind of come there and just kind of hang out. And then at that point, like you want to start like stroking her hair. You know, a lot of girls are gonna be down with it. Some might not be, but you know, you kind of like start stroking her hair.
Depends on if the hair looks high maintenance or not.
If they
okay?
have extensions, let's just put it that way.
If it's hair like mine, it's probably okay. But if it's like super curly or has hairspray, needs to stay where it's at, yeah, probably not.
Yeah, in that case, you definitely don't want to. She'll let you know really quick. If she's
probably
not
go
okay
like
with
this
it,
and move your hand
yeah, she'll move your hand.
towards her butt
But
or
as long as
something.
she doesn't move away, she still wants to be there. So you know, you could have like whether it's on her hair, you could be touching, you know, the side of her neck. Like you know, say you're watching a movie or something, and you're just touching the side of her neck, and you're just letting her know that you know it's okay. She's protected. You're okay with it. You know, she knows that you guys are gonna hook up, but you're not doing it yet, and she's getting
She
you know
wouldn't
really
be
comfortable.
in this personal area if you guys weren't going to kiss. Period. It just wouldn't happen.
It's just not gonna happen. Like if a girl's doing this, the reason you're not kissing her yet is because you want to make sure you don't get denied when you do. But it's just setting it up in the right manner. Other things you could do in this stage include.
You know, like I really like light touching because when you're in a new environment with somebody that you're so excited, everything's new, your nerves are so sensitive. You know, I love it when, you know, just like light fingers, just light touching. That, you know, gives me goosebumps. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff is good. The difference here between the previous stage is that this time it's obvious. You're doing it on purpose. Like you're not, oh, there's something on your neck, you know, whatever. You're not doing any of that. Like if you want to touch her neck, you just touch her neck. You know, it's very
Sensual.
yeah, it's very sensual. It's very on purpose. And how you do it isn't as important as that you are doing it and that you're doing it in this order. So don't really worry about like what is the exact pressure of my fingertips. Is it like squeezing a tube of toothpaste? Is it like gripping a golf club? Is it like punching a? Don't worry, it doesn't matter. You know, just what matters is that you follow the order, and then you're not going to get denied. Okay, what we're going to talk about now is how long all the steps. Before we move on to the next step, is how long all the steps that we've talked about should take, and the answer is as long as you're not meeting resistance in any of those steps, you can progress pretty quickly. You know, if you're out and you feel she's into you, and these steps you're not getting denied any of them, you can keep pushing and you go through all of them in 10 minutes, you know, 15 minutes. For women, it's not about time, it's about emotion. So if she's feeling good and she's receptive to your touch, she's not pulling away, nothing's going on, you're gonna keep moving forward very quickly. And you'll be surprised if you're a guy that's always taken a long time, or thought you had to take a long time, or struggled and had to take a long time to have sex with a woman the first time. You'll be pretty surprised that, you know, when you follow this kind of order, it doesn't take a long time. You know, it could be, you know, from once you start doing in the beginning and start hooking up, it could be 20 minutes, 30 minutes,
But
40
it doesn't
minutes.
mean that it has to be.
It doesn't have to
15
be.
or 20.
It doesn't have to be.
It could, you know, every girl's different. Every girl gets comfortable at her own pace. So
Yeah, some girls have rules already in their head, like, okay, it's gonna be, 3 days and then I will have sex or whatever. And it's just to each his own. You'll be able to find out by that green light, and you'll be able to escalate.
Yeah, and a lot of girls do have these like rules in their head. That's a good point. Avoid this, but most guys are gonna probably do it anyway. So just be cognizant of the fact that if she's telling you, I'm doing something with you that I don't do with other guys, it means a lot to her. You know, whether it means a lot to you or not, hopefully it does. It should, but you know, she's doing stuff with you that she doesn't do with other guys, so that, you know, that's very meaningful for her. So we talked about how long this should last. You know, it could last 10 minutes, it could last 30 minutes, it could be, you know, the course of 2 dates. If you hit step 3, 1 through 3, first date, and you can't get any further than that, or you're just feeling a little insecure, I don't want to push it, no worries, wait till the next time. But if you are following the steps, chances are you are not going to get denied. So let's move on into the next step. The next step is kissing, and this is super, super important, because this is like the first real physical contact that you make with her. And this is a really big deal, because for her, this is a very strong signal that she is probably going to have sex with you. And that does, again, it doesn't mean that night, but it means that she is going to have sex with you. And for women, this is when usually that they'll deny a guy if they're going to. You know, they'll deny a guy right before sex. Like maybe they'll be like naked and, you know, they're fooling around, and then they're going to deny a guy. But the other stage would be getting denied right when he's going to kiss her. Because those are like the two main blocks there: kissing and then sex. You know, and for other girls, it is maybe like a blowjob would be the other one. You know, that they consider that a little bit past sex. For some girls, for whatever reason, they consider the blowjob more personal. Like you do?
Yeah.
Okay, so it is pretty common. You know, a lot of girls,
Yeah.
they consider it past sex for whatever reason. We're going to talk about that as well. But the main first denial or roadblock, as you will, is the kiss. And the way you want to think about it from like a mindset perspective is that she should be wondering, why hasn't he kissed me yet? If she's wondering that, then you have the green light and you're totally not going to get denied. You know, like if you're playing around with her neck, you know, with her ear, and you're very close to her, she's thinking, he's going to kiss me. And she knows that you're going to kiss her. It's obvious. But she's thinking like, why, or why hasn't he done it yet? And what's going on here? What's he thinking? So there's a lot of ambiguity there, rather than you just going in for the kiss, you know, at the end of the night. And let's talk about that a little bit right now, because this is really super important. So if you've been pounding a few beverages, or you kind of lost focus for a second, make sure you refocus right now. This is extremely, extremely important. A lot of guys, they'll go in for the kiss, especially on the first date. They're thinking they got to wait till the end of the night. So they're waiting for the end of the night. They're going to drop her off at her house, and then they're going to go in for the hug, and then they're going to kiss her. This is totally the wrong way to do it. Like without question, the wrong way to do it. You may kiss her, but it's going to end there. She's not going to be like, hey, come in and let's have sex. It's not going to happen. She has to be much more comfortable with you kissing her for anything to happen that first night, or the second night or third night. If you get up into this, you know, tradition or pattern, which I've been stuck in before, you guys go out, you have a great time. You don't kiss her, end of the night you kiss her, right? Then the end of the next night, at the next date, you kiss her. You get into this pattern where she thinks, and she has all this control, and she thinks, I go out on the date, then at the end we make out for a while, and I'm totally in control, and I decide what's going to happen. That's like the worst case scenario for you. It's like, it's just so hard to overcome that kind of resistance.
You want to kiss her in the beginning. Like, as soon as she gets in that car, you just kind of want to, it could be overwhelming and a little bit scary, but girls
as long as you follow the ramp, you know, and you've touched her and you've gone in the right direction.
Steps, you go in for the kiss, then during the date, she's going to be trying to kiss you, or she's going to be thinking about what's going to happen after you drop her off. When you give her that goodnight kiss, she's going to probably invite you inside.
I think it doesn't need to be at the beginning of the date. It could be, but anytime except for the end, as long as the moment's right and the energy's there.
The end is by far the worst. As with any kind of escalation with a woman, you'd want the kiss to come at the high point. So if you're giving her a hug, that would be a good time to kiss her. Once you've hit the previous stages. You know, if she's like lying on top of you, like you're watching a movie or something, she's lying on top of you, and then you're gonna move in to kiss her, then that would be an ideal time. Like that's when you want to do it. What you really want to avoid is that end of the night kiss. And the earlier in the date that you kiss her, the more likely you are to have a lot of success at the end of the night. The more likely you are for a serious sexual interaction early on in the relationship. It's just much more likely. So as far as how you do want to kiss her, there's a lot of different ways to do it. The first would be like if you're really close to her and you're just kind of just like, you know, chilling, you're like really close to her, and then you end up kissing her like right at the end, like you move in at the very end. That would be the way to do it. And you want to move really slow. Like you don't want to move quickly. Like the faster you move, the more of a chance.
It's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's just a big struggle. So if like you're just hanging out, like you're at the side of her neck, she's thinking like, oh, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Then you want to move in and kiss her right at the end of that. Another way would be if you guys are really close and then you want to like pull her chin in towards you. So like if you're like, you know, she's like on top of you and you guys are hanging out or whatever, and you're watching a movie, whatever the example would be, you know, she's facing you. So if she's like facing you like this, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to kiss her, you can just kind of like pull her in a little bit and then move her in, and then you're going to move in the right direction, you know, pretty quickly. Other ways would be kind of like shape her head with your hand, so you can kind of like, you know, twist her in a little bit.
I love it when guys take their hand on my neck and take their thumb just kind of like along my jawline and just caress it, kind of like that's what they're getting ready to do.
Yeah, or the hair. Yeah, for me, it is okay to grab my hair and touch it when you're actually kissing. I think that's like very sensual, sexy.
So the other thing that is what you want to remember about kissing is when you do go in to kiss her, you want to move so slow. Like you don't want any surprise. Like it should not be a surprise. She should know that you're going to kiss her from 30 seconds before you do. Like if you're just chilling out there and you go in like, all right, if you're just chilling out and you have maybe like your arm around her and you just move in and just like that, that's when you get denied. That's all of a sudden it's like,
She'll feel
it's just,
like very uncomfortable.
it's very, very uncomfortable.
like a sneak attack.
Yeah, instantly it's just like you're not gonna surprise her into kissing you. It's just it's not gonna.
And you don't want a surprise, but I mean, if you did kiss her maybe like on the neck before you went in for the kill, that's like a precursor, and that's okay to be more of a surprise. But you want her to know that you're gonna do it by just like touching around that area and all the steps.
Yeah, no surprises. Whenever there's a surprise. One of the other ways that you're going to find that has a lot of success is as you move in and you get closer and closer, you get closer, 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 and then you just hang out there. And you're maybe like this far away, this far away, whatever, an inch, 2 inches. She's probably going to kiss you. And that's the ideal situation because then she just was so excited and so pumped up that,
she just couldn't control herself.
Yeah, she just couldn't control herself and she decided to kiss you. And that's going to be like a huge bonus on so many levels. Like this is a really good way to try it actually, because if you try this before you kiss her and she kisses you, your chances of hooking up with her earlier are much higher because she's the one leading the interaction and she already has in her head, like, I want to hook up with him and why isn't this guy keeping up with my speed? Which is like the reversal of every other dude she's going out with who's like totally choting around, like, what do I do now? And, what's next? And do I kiss her now? And then they get denied and, and all that kind of stuff. So make sure that, when you're there, you just move in an inch away and then eventually you kiss her, or test the waters first and wait for her to kiss you. And you're going to have a lot more success with that.
Personally, I would say I like a guy to kiss me. It's very unusual, maybe never, that I would kiss a guy. Just my personal preference. So if you can make it so that she's comfortable, little by little, with you kissing her, I would stay in that area for sure.
Really good point. The girls that, for the most part, in my opinion, that you're going to have to kiss first are going to be girls that are younger than you. It's going to be girls that are very American. It's going to be girls that are
shy.
A little on the shyer side, for sure. But the main things culturally, and also Asians. If you're going out with an Asian girl, she's not going to kiss you. Not going to happen. And you may be thinking like, she's not even into me. She probably is, but they're not going to be making any moves. Like if you put your hand on her, you put her hand on you, and then she moves it or something. Chances are she's just confused. Like there's just a lot of cultural confusion.
And I'll definitely show my interest. If you do these little hints and tips before, you will see I'm ready to go and I'm reciprocating, but I won't make that initial move. It's just a lot of girls are like that. And I think it is cultural.
And women that may kiss you first, if you move in a little bit closer and you're kind of thinking, like, is she going to kiss me first? Older women than you, chances are she probably will kiss you. Women that are much more open about sex, that don't really consider it a big deal at all. Like if you met them on like an adult dating site or the way they look for a relationship, the sex isn't as important because they've had a lot of sex and they're really looking for the sex plus more. They might kiss you first just, or if it is really important and they want to see if you're good, if the kiss is good, they might kiss you first. The other thing is so we said older, if there's women that are from, like a lot of guys write in, I'm meeting women on the internet, maybe from like Russia or from countries like that. We get a lot of emails about that stuff. I personally don't know anything about it, but as far as the emailing and then they come over, I don't know how that works. But as far as culturally, if you're dating women that are from those areas of the world, they're not going to kiss you either first. They don't want to. Like if it's like Russian, Czech, and we get a lot of emails about Filipinas, they're not going to kiss you first. Where else? Women that will kiss you first potentially are Brazilian or Hispanic. Brazilian for sure. Like if you move in to within an inch, she's going to kiss you. Like it's going down for sure. So if you're really looking for a woman that's going to be a little bit more aggressive, that side definitely Brazilian and Latin American, they're going to be much more open to making out. Down there, actually, in those cultures, like if you are looking to date a Hispanic woman, sex is not a big deal. So it's not as big a deal as far as they're probably not going to have sex the first night. But when they do have sex, it doesn't necessarily mean, unless you're good and you blow her mind, that the relationship is totally on. Because for them, sex is not as it's not as big a deal. They don't want to culturally, they don't want to tell everyone about it, but they it's not as big a deal. You know, it's not like they've had sex with 2 dudes their entire life. If you are looking for a Hispanic girl and you really want a girl that's like had sex with very few dudes, Hispanic, Latina, you know, Brazilians don't consider themselves Hispanic or Latina, but whatever, you know, then they're not going to be the right girl for you. So that was kind of a little discourse off topic there, but so move in for the kiss, try and get her to kiss you first. If not, then just go in and do it after.